on his return. Meanwhile, the fearsome Alan Shepard, the only one to admit crying on the surface, did the one thing no one thought he would do, could do. He mellowed. Among the rest, John Young became a fierce critic of NASA after the Challenger shuttle disaster, and left the astronaut office in a fog of anger and grief. And last man on the moon, Gene Cernan, admits to a nagging disappointment with everything that has followed his experience with Apollo 17. It's tough to find an encore. His flight companion, Jack Schmitt, became a US senator, but found politicians myopic and frustrating after the creativity he'd grown used to. He wasn't re-elected, and I'd heard that he latterly worked as a space consultant in Albuquerque. All described an almost mystical sense of the unity of humankind as seen from afar. A lot happened up there. The post-flight divorce rate was, in more than one sense, astronomical. With hindsight, the astronauts' reactions should have been predictable. Suddenly the 12 had to find answers to a question that had never been asked in quite the same way before. Namely, where do you go after you've been to the moon? In addition to their own hopes and expectations, they had the fantasies of faceless millions at their backs and millennia's worth of lore. The Nepalese, for instance, believe that their dead reside on the moon. When the Apollo 14 veteran Stu Rooser visited there, he grew increasingly flustered at being asked, "So, did you see my grandmother?" The walkers will forever be caught between the gravitational pull of the moon and Earth's collective dreaming. Charlie Duke grew angry as he admitted getting letters from conspiracy theorists who hold that the moon landings were staged and call him a liar. I liked Duke. At the age of 64 he was still tall and handsome, and spoke with a balmy drawl that seemed familiar, though it took a while for me to place it. I felt like a child lost in a favourite bedtime story as he described his flight, and the striking luminescence of our world as it moves through the lonely black void of space. From the moon, he said, the planet was like a jewel, so colourful and bright that you felt you could reach up and grab it, hold it in your hands, and marvel at it like the precious thing it is. Then he described his horror at realising that his life could only be one long, slow anticlimax from there. All that effort and creativity, what had it been for? The development of Teflon? A fallacy anyway. A few photographs? By 1972, Americans didn't give a damn about space. Then Duke spoke of his touching hope that one day we'll go back there, and I didn't have the heart to tell him that from where I was sitting that didn't look likely, at least not in his lifetime, perhaps not even in mine. When our time was up, I thanked him for a conversation I'd greatly enjoyed and made to leave, but Charlie told me that he had a gap in his schedule, so we could talk a while longer if I wanted to. He then explained that he and Dottie had received some troubling news the night before. When word arrived that Pete Conrad, the wise-cracking, larger-than-life commander of the Apollo 12 mission, the second one to land, had been injured in a motorbike accident near his home in California. Conrad was the one whose colourful swearing worried NASA suits, but who had kept cool when his Saturn rocket was hit by lightning, twice on takeoff, sending cockpit alarms into a cacophonous frenzy and the ground into panic. When a journalist doubted his assertion that Armstrong's "one small step" speech was not scripted, Conrad secretly bet her $500 that he could say whatever he wanted when his turn came, and nominated his words on the spot. "Whoopee, man, that may have been a small step for Neil, but it's a long one for me." She duly heard the diminutive astronaut trill as he became the third person on the moon on November 19, 1969. He was also the one who took a cassette player on the trip so that he and his crew could bounce around to The Girl from Ipanema and the Archies' Sugar Sugar, and allowed co-pilot Al Bean to take the pirouetting gold lunar module, so spidery and fragile-looking, for a joyride around the backside of the moon where NASA couldn't see what they were up to. When they went for their lunar stroll, Mission Control had to tell the two friends to stop yammering and exclaiming their delight to each other, as they couldn't hear a word Dick Gordon was saying from the orbiting command craft. Then Dottie was called to the phone and came back with the shocking news that Conrad had died of his injuries, and I wasn't surprised to see Charlie Duke's eyes cloud over as he talked about his comrade. I later learned that the place where he fell was called Ohi, a Native American word for moon, but it was the words Duke left me with.